When Orphan was released in 2009, the notoriety it gained over its outrageous ending earned the film a spot on the memorable end of the evil child subgenre. With a new prequel on the way, and with one of us never actually having seen the film before, we decided it was time to have a proper look at Orphan. Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim.
How you doing?
How you doing, Timmy? You good?
Yeah, I'm alright.
Good to know. Yeah, welcome to the show. This is a horror movie podcast. We get together, we watch the horror movie, and we talk about it. It's really quite that simple. Coming up on today's show, we'll be looking at a film that somehow eluded me, despite the fact that it's not it's not that old. It came out in 2009, and it got enough kind of, I won't say buzz per se, but like notoriety, maybe a better word.
I mean, 2009 was the year everyone was asking, what's wrong with Esther?
I missed all that conversation, Tim, I have to say. But yeah, so Orphan is the movie we're doing, and the reason why we're doing it is because there's a new one coming out soon.
It was about time.
Is it a prequel?
It is, yes, I believe so.
All right. Well, some thoughts on that at the end of the show, I suppose. But yes, we're going to talk about Orphan. We'll start spoiler free, and we'll give you a warning before we get to spoilers. I will say that despite having not seen it, it was kind of impossible not to hear what the twist was in this movie.
For sure.
But we won't say what it is until we're into spoilers. But I did know going in where it was going, which did kind of change how I perceived some scenes along the way. But yeah, the basic premise of Orphan is that a couple who have a miscarriage with their third baby decide to adopt and sort of put all that love and effort they were going to put into the baby to good use, and they adopt an orphan, as the title would imply. But it would just seem that Esther's a bit off, like maybe starts doing some sinister things, gives some dodgy looks here or there, maybe he's a little violent, behind closed doors, things like that. So yeah, so a lot of the plot is the mother, played by Vera Farmiga, kind of like sort of slowly realizing something's not quite right. Her husband John obviously is involved as well, and then the other kids obviously come into place. So that's the general premise of Orphan. You had seen this before though, right, Tim?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So
I go out of my way to watch horror movies.
Is the implication there that I don't?
Listen, I don't know what you were doing in 2009, and quite frankly, I don't want to know. But all I know is that I made it an appointment viewing for me.
There was a lot of good sci-fi in 2009, Tim. Okay.
Oh, for sure. Is that when the Sarah Connor Chronicles was on?
No, not Tim. How dare you? No, Moon District 9. I'll even whisper.
That's it.
Avatar. Whole variety of things. No, not having it. All right. Well,
those are good movies.
How do you feel about Orphan?
Yeah, I actually do. I do like this movie. I don't think it's amazing, but like for what it is, a creepy kids movie. I think it's not like a great movie, but I do think in terms of the kind of the crop of like usual creepy kid like Hollywood movies, I think it's a little better than most of them, and I think a large part of that I would put on the cast, which I'm a big Vera Farmiga fan. I think honestly I kind of watch her in anything. I think she's pretty great. I especially love like whenever she gets exasperated, and there's some good like just, man, I'm not having it anymore Farmiga in this. Yeah, and hey, I mean, let's face it, veritable scream queen of the genre. Obviously we know her from the Conjuring films, and of course, let's not forget her role in Bates Motel. So clearly she's got the horror chops, and there's a lot of horror royalty in this. Of course, we have CCH Pounder from Demon Knight and Psycho 4. So there's a lot of horror mainstays.
I'll be honest, I forgot that she was in Demon Knight, and I really thought you were just going to say Psycho 4, and that's why it's just horror royalty. It's just Psycho 4.
If she was just if it was only Psycho 4, I'd still give it to her.
Sure.
But hey, pound for pound, I love CCH.
That was a horrible pun. What the? That was horrible, Timmy.
We got a Sarsgaard in here. I don't know if is he part of the Sarsgaard clan? I'm not too familiar with this one.
It's Sarsgaard, not Skarsgård.
Whatever.
Yes. The husband's played by Peter Sarsgaard. Yes.
What else has he been in?
He was also Hector Hammond in the Green Lantern movie.
That's where I know him from, of course. How can I forget my annual rewatches of the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern film?
Fair enough, he was also in the newest Batman movie. He was like the District Attorney. Yeah, so he was like a more normal guy in that one.
Okay. But yeah, so the big flaw of this movie, which I think we're gonna get into it. I think the one like really major thing that you can say against it is just it is way too long. And I know you were even messaged me when you realize it's like just slightly over 2 hours. You're like, what the hell? Like, I don't think you have to drop this like down to 90 minutes or anything, because there's like a lot of stuff in here I like, but 2 hours is just like a smidge too long. Like maybe get down to about 140, 145 at most. But no, I mean, other than that, like it's maybe a little slower to start with, but maybe around the halfway point or so. And when things kind of kick into gear, I do like it. I like the actress that plays Esther. I think she does a good job of, being very kind of weird and off-putting and menacing. There's some kind of like, kind of usual like studio cheap generic stuff that's not the best in here, but I don't know. I do like the story, and I think the further along it goes, like it does get like into this kind of sleazy territory, which like I kind of like I don't know, it almost in a weird way kind of reminds me of like Giallo movies a little bit, not in like terms of like tone or filmmaking, like, which is probably the big thing you would think about like a Giallo movie, but kind of where the story goes in some places it feels like very like kind of ham-fisted and sleazy, which I don't know, just kind of reminds me of something you might see in a Giallo, which hey, I kind of like it. It worked for me. So yeah, I'm not gonna say it's like amazing, like a horror must see, but for what it is, I actually do enjoy it.
So that was a lot to take in. Yeah, so that was my first time watching the movie. So I'd heard of its reputation. What's funny, I think not the first time I heard of it, but my main memory of this movie is I was at dinner with a group of, I don't know if they were the Orphans. I was with a group of, I think it may have been like a work group as opposed to like a college group or something. But there was a group, like I think it was
that doesn't sound right because you've never had a job. Right? I was there for a couple of people I worked with, but then there was like some people that they knew that were there too that I didn't know. So didn't really know everyone at the table. But the one thing I distinctly remember coming up is that two of the people were a couple, and the boyfriend started making fun of his girlfriend because he had to announce to the table, hey, do you know what her favourite movie is? And then he whipped out Orphan and started talking about how terrible it was, and then she tried to defend it and why it was so good. And that's my distinct memory. So get out of this viewing, I had that like locked in the chamber. I had this like this fight in my head. I'm curious if they're still together.
I don't know. This was probably like a decade ago at this point, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but
I mean, I'm sure he was doing it like pretty playfully, but it still kind of sounds like a shitty thing to do. Like I don't know. Some people I feel like that they do that very playful kind of gesturing with each other, but then I don't know. There's times when it's like, come on, man, I actually do really like this, and you're busting my chops for it. Like, give me a break. Come on.
It felt like a running thing. It felt like a running, like it's always brought up that our favorite movie's Orphan. So, yeah, I got into the movie.
And this was before the the times of let people enjoy things, like
Yes, of course. The olden days, because we're old.
Yeah.
No.
Now, you can just break out that meme anytime someone tries to yuck your yum.
Aye. So I go into this viewing, and I genuinely don't know how I'm going to feel about it. Like, I think the posters always look a cheap horror movie to me. I think that's maybe why I stayed away from it originally, just because it looked kind of like a cheap, nasty little Hollywood horror movie. I actually didn't know Vera Farmiga was in this. I was pleasantly surprised when she popped up, like almost immediately. I was like, oh, it's Vera Farmiga.
It's a Farmiga picture.
It's a Farmiga movie, yeah. And getting into it, we get the start. It didn't jump straight to Esther. It takes a little bit of time establishing the family before they go to get her, right? And I'm like, I'm not sure what I feel yet. Like, I'm just. I guess the positive thing to make of that is that it wasn't like a train wreck from the get go. Like, it wasn't like it was being stupid or whatever. And then once interest Esther, though, which is the real part of the movie, that's when the movie really starts to kind of get going. Is I felt uncomfortable. There was something unsettling about the whole thing. I think once Esther starts doing more explicitly bad things in front of the other kids or whoever, I think it considerably picks up. And needless to say, I'm surprisingly relatively positive, I think, on this. I don't think it's amazing. There's definitely some, I would agree it's too long. It needs to be trimmed down. There's definitely some stylistic choices that feel a little bit of the era and kind of that sterile horror movie kind of aesthetic that it's maybe going for a little bit. But I did laugh because of my dark sense of humor a number of times. They got an intentional great laugh out of me at one point, and
there's definitely a couple times I was doing some very audible laughs, which we can't really talk about until we go into spoilers, but I was laughing a bit as well.
Yeah, and at least a couple of them were very intentional as well, which I think is worth pointing out. And yeah, I mean, like at a certain point, you're kind of hoping or rooting for the other kids to somehow be able to convince the parents that something's going on, because they're kind of trapped because of Esther's threats or whatever, and like some of that stuff is actually quite fun. Like all of the things she tends to do that are evil end up being quite entertaining to some extent, and
for sure,
so ultimately, I kind of liked Orphan. It's not faultless, but there's some stuff to enjoy.
I gotta say, I am pretty shocked because I was not expecting that. Like, I didn't think you would love it, which obviously you don't, but like I did think you were going to be slightly more negative, which I'm surprised we're kind of sounding at least like we're on a bit of the same page.
I think it's just enough of it was just like darkly absurd enough the more it went on that obviously like the twist towards the end of the film, you could argue if they even need that, because the movie would still work if it wasn't there. It would still just completely function the way it is. But it's kind of the big silly thing that everyone remembers, and it's the thing that I heard somehow just via the internet or whatever when it was kind of getting a reputation. But like, the rest of it I think would work regardless of the ending, because you have that's because we've seen other movies where you just have a simple plot about I guess the closest comparison, or maybe not the closest, but I was thinking of The Omen a little bit when I was watching it. The idea that you've got the evil child who's doing stuff, and that was more supernatural in the way it was, the way Damien was kind of just connected to a force that was killing people or whatever. But it's not a million miles away.
Yeah. Of course, you have your Children of the Corns.
It's been such a long time since I've seen that, though, that I can't remember it. It's on our franchise to do list. We'll get to it at some point. We'll get to it, but yeah. So I had a decent time with Orphan. I'm surprised to see it. Cool. I am. It is too long. There's a few other nitpicks here or there, but
I do think you feel the length more kind of in that first half or third. Once things start picking up, I didn't really feel the length as much, I thought.
To an extent, it's kind of weird because there was a point when I checked where I was at, and it was exactly halfway. It was an hour into the movie, and there was an hour left. And a part of me felt like, oh, this is starting to really ramp up. How is there an hour left? Like, it feels like there can't be another hour. Like, what the hell's going to happen for the rest of this movie if that's what's left? And obviously there was, and obviously I saw it play out and what it did, but I was kind of thinking, this probably could wrap up in half an hour. Like, now that things are really starting to, pop and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, but hey, it was a decent time.
Well, I guess we're both fans.
Don't like that. Yeah, no, I mean the performances, obviously Vera's obviously kind of the main character for the most part, and that she's the one who's driving things. She's the one who's more focused on than the husband.
Sometimes literally, because she does get behind the wheel.
Yes, sometimes she drives a vehicle. Yes, that's true. Obviously the actress playing Esther, Isabelle Fuhrman, who I think is like 25 now, just to make you feel old. Like she does a good job. She's got this accent she's doing. She's meant to be from Russia, and I don't have a clue if the actress really is from there, or if this is an accurate accent necessarily, but she definitely had a sort of distinct voice that every time she spoke or shouted or said something, you always knew it was her. You always got a vibe from her.
Oh, for sure. And I think she does she does a good job going back and forth between like the menacing and the kind of innocent, like, oh, just want to please everyone and be part of the family kind of child. Yeah.
And the rest are solid enough. The little sister is well, she's technically she's the little sister, and the Esther's older than her, I think, but obviously she was there first in the family. Right. But she's deaf, and so she's doing sign language and stuff throughout the movie, and it kind of, I wouldn't say it comes into play too much, but it's kind of there to show early on that Esther's willing to kind of learn that quickly to try and impress her and be brought in as part of the family. But it almost pisses the brother off because the brother's like he can do it, but he's not learned it as fluently, so he feels a little bit shown up, I guess. So you got that going. You got some jealousy going on there, and then you got the crazy things that Esther tries to actually do and what her sort of end goal is, and we'll get into all that in spoilers, but that's where it really gets wild. And knowing the twist, there's that specific moment early on where I was like, oh no, this is what I'm already seeing where it's going with our plans, and I was like, oh no. But so cast is good. Direction is not bad. Like I say, it kind of has that sterile horror movie look to it from this time period. I looked up because I didn't really know the director from anything. I looked him up to see if I'd seen him any of his other films. So he's done kind of a weird batch of things he's done. So before this, he did the House of Wax movie from 2005, which I've never seen.
Oh wow, okay, that's to-do list.
Yeah. After that, he did a few Liam Neeson action movies. He did Non-Stop and Run All Night, and then he did The Shallows, the shark movie.
Oh, okay.
Which I actually kind of like that movie. So that's two decent movies he made. And I went back to doing a Liam Neeson action movie. And then he did Jungle Cruise, and apparently he liked working with The Rock so much because he's the one that's also doing Black Adam.
Oh, interesting. Oh, okay.
So very, very odd career path. I mean, he's very much a safe Hollywood director, I guess. That sounds kind of insulting, but all of his movies feel like they very much fit into just kind of Hollywood safe, in-house types of movie. Yeah. And I say that
he's gonna play a game. He's gonna deliver you what you're looking for.
Yeah. And I say that as this movie does kind of push maybe a few boundaries that I'd say Hollywood movies don't tend to push, but we'll get into all that. So, it's not bad.
And it's a snowy movie.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of snow outside. I don't think I've seen these two. No, I think I saw Non-Stop. Out of those Liam Neeson movies. But I did not see the other two. So
I'm sure they're terrific.
I have. What was that joke?
It wasn't a joke. I think they might be terrific.
I thought you said terrific because I just said two. I think you were trying to do a play on words like a madman.
Well, since you didn't like it, I'll say no.
Wise choice. So, yeah, and the movie sets up.
This movie would have been good if it would have been nice to throw in a little Neeson in the scene.
Oh sure,
see him like hunting down the orphan.
Yeah, Liam Neeson shows up hunting Esther. Yeah, he's after her. She's a wanted criminal, and he's chasing her down.
He could be like one of the nuns from the orphanage. Did somebody say Esther?
That wasn't terrible. It wasn't amazing, but it wasn't terrible either. I got that you were doing Liam Neeson.
Thank you. I'll take what I can get.
Yeah. So. Yeah. We're just dancing around spoiler now. Like you can't talk about anything without bringing up the ending.
Yeah. There isn't really much like non-spoilery stuff to talk about in this, really.
No, I mean at this point we're talking about all of Esther's antics and then ultimately what. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. Yeah.
She's a little stinker.
So we'll give the spoiler warning from this point on. Spoilers for Orphan from 2009. You have been warned. So. Yeah, Esther is actually not a 9-year-old girl. She is a 33-year-old woman who suffers from a very specific type of dwarfism that makes her look like a child, and she's just pretending to be a child.
Which I have no idea if this is like a real medical condition. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I'd assume if it is, it's probably like extremely rare. But man, what a nightmare that would be to have that.
I mean, I've never heard of it before this movie, so I'm going to say that it's not real. But I mean, it could be. Like, I'm just, if I was to guess, I would say it isn't, and it's just the movie making something up for the sake of the big plot twist. Yeah, I mean, the thing with it is that this movie could play out exactly like it does, pretty much. Barring maybe like one or two little things, just in the idea that it could be an evil child. You suspect quite early on that she burned her previous orphanage down in Russia, or wherever she said that was, and that maybe she's going to eventually do the same to this family, right? You've already got that threat element there. She's doing all this bad stuff behind the adults' backs. Her ultimate plan is to try and steal the husband. She's like trying to split up the marriage so she can take the husband for herself. In fact, that was the moment. Is the first time. It's when her and the little sister run into the bedroom. It's right after they've tried to have sex as well, and they get interrupted. And Esther's like, "We're scared, because of the storm. We want to sleep with you guys." And they say, "Sure, on you come." And immediately Esther goes, "I want to sleep with Daddy." And as soon as you said that, I was like, "Oh no! Oh, I see what Esther's game plan is now, and I don't like it."
It's kind of funny because there's almost like a couple of different like horror kind of tropes that are going on, because you have just like the regular, evil kid trope where they're like killing people, or hurting people behind their backs and no one's suspecting them. But then there's also this other kind of like thing to it where it's also like she's trying to like drive the mother crazy and discredit her. So I don't know, I think that stuff is kind of interesting, and there's actually like a lot going on in this family, because they're dealing with like the loss of a child, and also the mother's like a recovering alcoholic, and they had this accident with their other child. So, it is actually like pretty reasonable, like that, people would start questioning the mother, by the end of this. But, I just thought that was interesting. That's like, oh, it's not just hey, we got to fight this evil kid. It's also like, okay, I have to convince people that, I'm not crazy. I'm not a danger, as well.
I mean, it's a credit that it's not annoying, because like it could very quickly just fall into that same trope that supernatural movies do, where the wife is seeing the crazy stuff and the husband doesn't, and he doesn't believe her. I think it works here to an extent because it's actually the game plan, and you see how Esther's trying to kind of manipulate it to make it always look like, try to always get them to fight, you know. But it's kind of got this double layer of like, so there's a scene kind of like a third out of the movie where the dad takes the kids to the park, and this other mum comes up to him and starts basically flirting and asking him to come over to help her with, you know, fixing a chair or something like that, and it's just clearly trying to get him to have an affair. And Esther looks jealous. She's looking at her like, who's this bitch? I don't like this. But she tells you know, Kate, Vera Farmiga's character, about this, so that it will cause a fight and it'll cause some disruption between them. And then from there, she sort of keeps doing things to make Vera Farmiga look like she's, you know, like she's bad. She intentionally gives her flowers that are actually the flowers they planted with the ashes of their you know, stillborn child. And yeah, like you know, so Vera Farmiga grabs her arm, and then later on, Esther like intentionally puts her arm in a vice to break it, to make it look like Vera Farmiga's broken her arm. You know? Yeah,
this I thought was actually like a pretty like intense scene. Like I don't know, it's just like one of those things where it's like it's hard not to, or it's hard watching that and like not imagining like your own arm being that vice, and it's just like, oof.
Yeah. And the other big one is when she sabotages the brother's like backpack so that his books fall out. So Vera gets out of the car at the school to go help him, and then Esther sneaks around to the front of the car and takes the brake off and takes it out of neutral. So that it starts to reel back down the hill with the little sister in the back seat, might I add. So this is like the little sister may die here. If anything hits this car, she might be a goner.
And I think I especially liked how, you know, we're kind of talking how the movie doesn't really have much style or anything, and like I wouldn't say this is necessarily like a stylistic scene, but I did like the direction here as well. Like I don't know, just seeing like all the other cars pass, and I like that there was like just kind of like one random dude that was trying to like, you know, run up to the car and like couldn't like quite make
stop it. He tries to open the door. He tries to, like, you know, stop, because she's yelling, "Help, please! My child's in the back seat," and it's you know, free running down the hill.
Well done. I thought it looked good.
No, I mean the action scenes are well enough directed. It's not even. I wouldn't say that it doesn't necessarily have a style. I would just say that by and large, most of the time it has that sterile 2000s horror look to it, which is kind of what I was complaining about, rather than having no directorial touch at all. You know, there is moments that do work quite well, and that's one of them. And you know, honestly, I was kind of laughing a little bit as it was. I thought this was darkly quite funny. Like,
for sure.
The Esther is this devious and is like, this is going to look like she's forgotten to, you know, put the car, the brakes on properly, and it's going to make her look like crazy. And, you know, combine that with some wine bottles in the trash, and all of a sudden, you know, Vera Farmiga looks really guilty and suspicious. Yeah.
And like I know technically, like, you know, Esther is supposed to be in her 30s, but I couldn't help but laughing like towards the end, like once, you know, they're fighting, like just seeing Vera Farmiga like slap like a 10-year-old kid is just like inherently funny.
Well, it happens because it happens in the hospital when she actually tries to finish off the brother after she's already injured him. And that's the first time because basically after she's trying to like suffocate him, no one sees it, but like Vera just assumes like, oh, this is her. She's done this to make him worse, and just walks up and slaps her. That was darkly funny. But the funnier one is actually at the end when she just like, you know, basically Esther's losing the fight, and just one last ditch effort says, "Please don't let me die, mommy." And Vera just goes, "I'm not your effing mommy," and just kicks her head so hard that her neck snaps.
Jesus, that's so brutal.
Like, I am always in support of like evil children being like visibly getting their comeuppance. Don't shy away from it because they're technically kids.
Yeah.
You know, like do it. And so I applaud that. I applaud that moment.
And I could be wrong, but I swear there's been like some other horror movies that have used that line too. Like I want to say, like, doesn't the American Ring, doesn't she say that?
I don't remember.
I mean, maybe someone in the comments can like correct me if I'm wrong, but like I want to say like I don't know, either The Ring or like maybe
we did that like 4 years ago. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
But I guarantee that like someone had like there was another horror movie, a somewhat modernish one, like I guess from the 2000s, like which I guess it could be considered kind of old now, but like I swear there's another horror movie that had like that exact same line. But hey, I mean it's a good line, so I'm not complaining. But
yeah,
I kind of hope that the young kid Max, like I kind of wanted her to like have like a badass line that she would like sign at the end, like
well, say F you in sign language.
Yeah, like something like that. Which I guess is that just a finger? I
don't think that means F you. I think that means up yours. Is it not?
I don't know. Maybe it's a cultural thing. I always assumed it was "fu," at least like in America. But I mean, I guess I could be wrong. But I thought it was.
No, it's an American thing. This is not a cultural thing. Like I thought that's what it meant was up yours. But I mean,
it could be wrong. I don't know.
You don't sound too confident, Tim.
I mean, I don't know if. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's fu, but if it's not, I'll take it back. But I always thought it was.
Well, I'm not that sure either, but you're not that sure for the sounds of it, so I'm guessing it's up in the air.
Okay.
The important part is you know when to use it.
Well, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So all of that stuff is entertaining. In fact, the first moment that really made me laugh is after the married couple try to have sex in the kitchen and they're being a bit raunchy and it's been a bit flirty. And Esther walks in on them and they go, ah, shit. And then the next morning, Vera comes up to her, like, we have to talk about last night. And she's like, when a man loves a woman and they really want to show that to each other. And Esther just turns around and goes, yeah, I know. They F.
Yeah.
just says it. That made I think the delivery in particular really made me laugh. Like I got a lot out of that, and then like the parents sort of like talking about it afterwards and just like casually swearing at each other as much as possible because they're worried that she's going to start swearing at everyone.
Oh yeah, that was funny. It was also kind of like a cute like I actually do think they're like a pretty cute couple. Like I mean there's times when things are tense and they're like fighting and stuff, but I actually did like kind of the sweet moments between them, and that was actually a really cute part when they're just swearing at each other.
Yeah. Maybe if you spend some effing time with her, yeah, okay, bitch. Yeah. But they're just joking with each other, so it's sweet enough, is what it is.
For God's sake, though, like you're getting Randy in the kitchen, like it's like just go to the bedroom, like people eat there. Come on.
Nah, filthier the better. Do it in the kitchen.
Ugh, disgusting.
What's a kitchen counter if there's not been a good set of ass prints on it? Come on.
Dear Lord. That's what she makes her children's lunch, for God's sake. Like
they came out of that end of her, more or less.
The butt?
I said more or less.
Dear Lord.
Yeah, so if we go back, sort of rewind a little bit and sort of talk about our first arriving there, and you can sort of date this movie.
Well, even if we go like I mean, if you want to start like right at the beginning of the movie, you have that like kind of intense like dream sequence of her miscarriage.
I have to admit, I didn't like the dream sequence that much.
It's a weird start.
It felt a bit hokey to me. It felt like a hokey direct-to-video movie sort of beginning scene. I don't know. Something about it just felt a bit cheap.
I kind of liked how... I'm not going to say that it's not, like, cheap, but I do kind of like how, I don't know, like, kind of over-the-top and, like, sleazy it kind of felt to me.
Sure. Yeah, I didn't really get a whole lot out of it. It just felt a bit... I don't know, like I was almost surprised when it started to go a lot more quieter and kind of, like, a slow... sort of burn build afterwards, because it kind of felt like a different type of movie from that opening scene.
Sure.
And then then it was like, okay, now we're establishing that she goes to therapy, she's an ex-alcoholic. There was an accident once where the little girl almost died, and that was maybe as a result of her alcoholism, so that's kind of what made her stop drinking. And Like, so you get all this backstory and stuff, and they go to the orphanage.
Which, like, the thing that's like kind of funny about it is you probably could just do one or the other. Like, you could have, like, I feel like the trauma of, you know, losing one child, like, yeah, that could probably be enough for a lot of things in the movie. But it's like, yeah, you have that, but then you also have this other traumatic incident with the drinking and whatnot. And then I wasn't sure, I don't know if they specifically said this, but was that accident with, like, you know, her drinking and like the lake and stuff, is that what made the child deaf, or was that something she just always had? I wasn't really quite sure about that.
No, they said that she was born that way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it said she was born that way.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I think the implication is she started drinking after the miscarriage, and or still, I don't know if technically being stillborn is also a miscarriage. Maybe I'm probably swapping the terms around a little bit, but
well, it's I think that I've heard of this condition before, but it just sounds like maybe like one of the worst things a person can go through, where because I think they kind of expand upon it a little bit later in the movie, where she says, like, basically the baby died in her womb, but like it, like, you know, she couldn't get rid of it until like she delivered it or whatever. So like for, I think she said like 16 days or something like that, she had like a dead baby in her cider, which is just like, Jesus, like, that's so horrific. Like, I can't even imagine like what that would be like.
Yeah, you see her C-section scar at one point, so I mean they go into that a little bit. But they go to the orphanage and they encounter Esther, who's kind of off on her own, and it's the dad that meets her first, and is impressed with her drawing skills. And of course she's good at drawing. She's 33. She's better than all these other twerps. Which actually, there's a nice bit of setup for that, because when we first meet Maxine, the little sister, she comes out of her school and she's drawn a butterfly that day. It's actually kind of a nice little comparison. It's like, okay, this is what an actual little girl draws.
That's
like,
true, yeah.
And then here's what Esther can do, and how it's a little bit, you know, extreme quality in comparison. But you know, they meet her, they hit it off, they bring her in. You can date this movie quite specifically because the son's playing Guitar Hero a lot in the movie. So they integrate, and the son's like kind of unlikable at first because he's kind of like shitty to her. He's jealous that she's getting attention. Sure. He's, you know, saying really awful things at the dinner table, like, you know, why does she...
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, like, why does she have to act that way? Why does she have to dress that way? Why does, you know, everyone's making fun of me? They should send her back to the orphanage. That sort of stuff.
Yeah, because like one of the things that's like, it's not so much that he, you know, it seems like he is against the idea of having like a, you know, an adopted sister or whatever, but it's the fact that she acts so weird because she's like, you know, very prim and proper, and she wears like kind of these old fashioned like dresses, and you know, like you're saying, yeah, he's kind of just like, well, just act normal. Like, why can't you act like a kid? Like, you know, she seems like a little kid, maybe trying to be like kind of like grown up or something.
Yeah, which is, you know, not a good cover if you try to like hide the fact that you're actually a grown up, you know. Just FYI. But you know, we see, like, you know, the girl who makes fun of her in class is the one she ends up pushing off the playground, like, you know, climbing frame or whatever it is, you know, the top of the chute. And
yeah, at the top of the slide, and that's like another pretty brutal scene, like, just like, because, you know, they don't shy away from, like, you know, showing her like leg just snapping. Yeah,
her leg bends in a way it's not meant to bend. Yeah. It's quite, I think that's the first proper violent thing she does, like, unless you're counting the bird, because there's like at one point the you know, the son, he shoots a bird with a paintball gun, and this was actually the scene that made me like him, not because it's just a bird with a paintball gun, but because after he does it, he actually starts tearing up because he didn't realize that it was going to hurt it that much. Now obviously he's an idiot because, you know, you just don't do it, but but the fact that he felt so remorseful was the first time in the movie. Was like, oh, he's actually a human being. Okay, maybe I can actually be on his side a little bit now.
I think, and if you put it in context with other things, like, you know, the kid's also going through a lot of things as well. Like, you know, he also lost a sister and stuff, and, you know, I'm sure since he's like the kind of the older one, I'm sure he probably picks up on like their parents fighting a bit more than like the younger sisters. So it would make sense that, he's going through some things. But yeah, like you said, this is a scene that actually shows like, oh, okay, he's not just like a dick. He has a human side. But I like the scene. It's a nice callback to, later on when she almost, kills him later on.
Well, yeah, we have to see what she does though, because the bird's lying there, dying or in pain, and Esther comes up and says, "Oh, you need to put it out of its misery," and he says, "No, I can't do it. I just can't." And Esther, without hesitating, just picks up this like brick that's nearby and just throws it at the bird, and it just splat. And it's like, okay, well, that's that then. And throws the brick to the side. So, and yeah, she almost does that to himself later when he's well, after she set fire to his treehouse, and all of his porn magazines go up in flames.
And like when she kills the pigeon, she says something like, "It's okay, like it's in heaven now" or something, and then she says like the same thing again when she almost kills him, which was nice.
Yeah.
Not a nice thing to do, but it was a nice callback.
Oh yes, obviously, yes. And the other big thing, of course, is she breaks the girl's leg by pushing her off, and she is accused of doing that. But and obviously Vera's starting to think something's up by this point. But Maxine kind of, even though she saw it, sticks up for her and says, "No, the girl just slipped. It wasn't Esther." And but all this is bubbling up because the main nun, played by CCH Pounder, calls them and says, "Hey, there's something not quite right with all this paperwork with her. I need to come and talk to you." And she comes and talks to him and says, "Oh, they think that fire that killed like everyone where she was before might have been arson. There's some weird things not adding up." And Vera's like sort of listening to this and is like kind of like taking it in and like saying this kind of adds up with some of this weird behavior that we're seeing. But the husband's like, no. This is like, you're accusing her of all sorts of weird stuff now. Like this doesn't make sense. She's an innocent little girl. But basically,
to be fair, like I feel like a lot of this is on the orphanage. Like they should have maybe been a little more diligent with figuring some of these facts out before. They
should have spotted all of this before they gave her to someone. Like what the hell?
They would have at some point they would have needed to have done like a physical or done like the dental checkup, like because that's like a big thing. Like they mentioned that the family has to do that, and obviously Esther doesn't want that because the doctors or the dentist will figure out something's going on with her. But I feel like the orphanage should have like done that first and realized that.
Yeah. Honestly, it's like, how long was she there? Because it sounds like she was there a while, and you never like did any of this stuff or checked any of her paperwork or history. So it's a bit odd. But Esther is so determined to not be caught and sent away. She wants to stay with the family that she basically makes Maxine sit out in the road so that the nun will have to swerve her car. And then when she gets out to help, Esther just comes up and whacks her with a hammer in the head.
Many a time.
And then makes Maxine help her pull her off the road, and she rolls down the hill, but she's not dead yet. Like she's only been hit once, so she's still alive and she's in pain. And Esther comes right down and just finishes her off, hitting her repeatedly with a hammer. And it's pretty brutal. And obviously, again, this is like this escalation, like we go from the bird to the little girl getting injured to this kill. And then, when she's worried that the brother is going to rat her out or is looking for evidence of what she's done, that's when she burns the treehouse and then ultimately tries to kill him. And that's actually like a little heroic moment for Maxine, because Maxine's the one who saves him. She's the one that comes in and pushes her out the way, and it's like, oh, she just saved her brother. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, and I think there's like an interesting dynamic between her and the little sister, because like there's so many times where she tries to act like so loving and like the big sister to her, but then there's also like these instances where she's just willing to sacrifice her. Like she pushes her out onto the road, and luckily CCH Pounder swerves, but she didn't really know, or at least you would assume that she wouldn't know for sure that would definitely happen. And then like you were saying before with the incident where with the car at the school, like she's she doesn't know that the Maxine's gonna be safe in the backseat. Like she, like when she talks like one-on-one, like she says how much she loves her and like you'll always be my sister and stuff, but then she really doesn't care about her. Like she's very willing to just sacrifice her at the drop of a hat.
Oh yeah, she's just a tool. She's just
Yeah.
so someone she can manipulate, someone who's willing to like at least be scared enough of her to do what she says until a point. You know, it's not until late into the movie where she's like actively trying to kill the whole family that she starts going after her.
And she does like a good job of like manipulating her, where you can kind of understand why, you know, like as a young kid she would be afraid to go to anyone about that, because yeah, she'll say like, oh yeah, like, you know, I'll do this to mommy if you tell anyone or whatever.
Oh yeah, at one point she says, I will stab mummy if you tell anyone about this. Yeah, so like, and it's these really sinister things, and like there's these other little hints as well. You know, she's not meant to, like, she's like really good at the piano when she claimed to not be before, or at least implied she wasn't before, and all these other things are just keep constantly adding up to make Vera think. And I think what I really appreciated about Vera's character is that at a certain point, when the husband's not believing her and even threatening to leave and take the kids, she's like, you know what? I'm not even going to try and argue with you. If you think that's what's best, that's what's best. But the one thing that I am going to insist is that Esther does not go anywhere near our kids. Yeah. Like, the other two are not safe with her. And that's what she keeps fighting for. And it's kind of like, I think what I appreciated about it is that it kind of showed her to be this smart character that was like, okay, obviously she wants to clear her name and she wants to sort this out, but the first things first is the safety of her two actual children is the important thing. And
absolutely,
like, it's like, you know what, you can think whatever you want about me for the time being, whatever, but do not let them near her. And obviously she keeps getting ignored and they don't listen to her, but like, that's kind of, I really like that detail in her, like, trying to convince them of things. You know, and obviously she's like phoning the orphanage. She ends up phoning like the place she was supposed to be staying at in Russia. It turns out to be in Romania, and it turns out she wasn't at an orphanage, she was at a mental asylum. And when
I love this whole reveal. Like, it's like, again, I use this word a lot, but like, it feels like kind of over the top or sleazy, but like, I don't know, that's what I like about it. Like, it's just like very fun being like, what are you talking about, miss? This isn't an orphanage. ... This is an insane asylum.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. She says to the guy on the phone, when the woman finally gets someone who can speak English, she says to him, well, this little girl, blah blah blah, and he's like, oh, she definitely didn't come from here. And she's like, I've not even told you her name yet, or like sent a photo or anything. And he's like, no, you don't understand, this isn't an orphanage, this is a mental hospital. Like, so she definitely didn't come from here. And then when she sends the email and the guy from the mental hospital gets back to her, he's just like, hey, you know where this girl is right now? She's dangerous. This is a 33-year-old woman. She is absolutely psychotic. She tried to steal a husband away from a family and then burned them all when she didn't get her way. And she's probably going to do the same thing again. And that, you know, that leads into this big final act where she's racing back to the house, and Esther has chosen to try and seduce the dad by putting on a dress, dolling herself up, and he's having a bad day. You know, he's been at the hospital, his son almost died, his wife might be going crazy with these like accusations from his perspective. So he's drinking, he's not feeling very well, and he doesn't even look at her at first. So she's trying to, you know, he's just like, oh, she's trying to be nice, whatever. And then he like turns and looks at her, and he's like, wait, what the hell are you wearing? What did you do to your face? What's going on?
Was the implication that like she might have drugged his drink or something? Because it was like,
I don't think so.
Whenever they would cut to her face, it was like the camera was all like wobbly and like
maybe,
you know, out of focus and stuff.
I was wondering if that was just because he just drank 2 bottles of wine or whatever. He's just,
that could, I mean, yeah, that could be, and also just the stress of everything that's going on. Yeah, like this is probably like the most uncomfortable scene in the movie.
Yeah, it's. And to be fair, his reactions to everything are perfectly reasonable.
It is like, there is kind of like this like dark humor to it where like once you know what's going on and she's like, I love you, Daddy. He's like, oh yeah, you know, I love you too, Esther. And you know, she's like, no, like I love you, Daddy. He's like, yeah, well, I love you too. And then it's like, yeah, once like the light bulb starts going off on him and he's like, what the F? Like, it was like, obviously messed up, but kind of funny.
And he tries to explain to her and talk her down, and then she tries to touch him, and then he just jumps out of his seat like, whoa, go to your goddamn room. We're not doing this. Like, go away. Leave me alone. And unfortunately,
just like imagine the headspace he's in, where it's like, Jesus, like,
he's having a day.
We're still,
he's having a day.
But it's like, it's still probably not too far off where like one of their kids had died, and then his wife has been going crazy and is in like rehab, and then their other kid is like in the ICU, and then it's like now this is happening. Like Jesus, like it's not like he's been like a like Vera's like Farmiga has been like kind of the main character. Like it feels like he's like a little bit off to the side, but you just gotta like imagine like what the hell is like going through his head at this point.
Yeah, and unfortunately for him, this rejection doesn't go well. She stabs him repeatedly and kills him when she gets the chance. But she like changes first though. She takes out her young teeth that she puts in, and so she looks a little bit older. Obviously, it's still this young actress playing her, but they do a decent job of making her feel like a bit older. But
yeah, and like once all the lights are out in the house, and she has this like kind of like haggard look on her face, like it's I like how like kind of tawdry it ends up going.
Not to mention the hidden paintings on her walls, which are revealed by blacklight, where the dad goes in and holds up the light and sees like a mural of them having sex.
It's kind of like you were saying earlier, like you could probably do a better job of like hiding this kind of stuff. Like, do you like obviously it's in like black light or whatever, but still, why risk it? Like, someone possibly finding this before.
Yeah, super risky. I mean, hell, the thing that gets Vera sort of investigating her properly is that she finds her like secret Bible that has like some suspicious stuff in it, like hidden in the drawer. So yeah, there's some risks are being taken by Esther that seem a bit,
Oh yeah, and I also like the reveal of like because she has these like bracelets and a little like kind of neck
collar
choker thing, collar thing on throughout the whole movie, and then when the like a guy at the mental hospital or whatever is talking to Kate, and he's like, oh, like she has like scars on her from when like she was trying to be restrained.
This was the only thing that was maybe worse, because I knew the twist was coming, was that I kept trying to figure out, like, before they got to this point, like, what exactly is she hiding that would reveal her age? I was trying to think, like, what on her neck would be different on its own that would reveal that she's lying about her age? And it wasn't that at all. It was just, it was something specific that was just about the backstory. But I kept trying to think, like, why would that reveal her age? What about her neck? So yeah, but hey,
like a Matrix tattoo or something.
she's got like a really like dirty tattoo or something across her neck. But yeah, so Vera gets home, finds her dead husband, tries to find her daughter, who's sneaking around without her hearing aid, so she can't hear anything at all, and sort of ends up seeing her down below in the greenhouse and sees Esther in there with a gun. She gets shot at one point in the leg as well, so she's kind of limping around, and we get her fighting Esther, and like, it's like, it really is like toe to toe. There's punching back and forth. The fight ends up in the frozen lake that's been, it's been talked about a lot, because that's where Maxine almost drowned a year ago. And we get this whole underwater section where they're kind of punching each other, and eventually we get that I'm not your effing mother, and neck snap would be a kick, which is pretty badass. It has to be said. I think if I'm going to compliment something, like, just blanket here about the movie, is that I think it did a good job of, by the end, making me care, at least in some level, about every member of the family. Like, they all seemed, at a certain point, like, once the brother was a dick for a while, but once he had a heart, and once it seemed like he was trying to, like, get proof so he could save his sister from being, like, held hostage by this awful orphan that they've got in the house. Like, it felt like he had like really noble goals at that point, even if he was being really childish and like a little dick about things before. The dad, for the most part, felt on the level. Like when he has the fight with Vera about like the possibly flirting with the other woman, like they both kind of get a bit bitchy about it, and it's they're not likable in the moment, but otherwise though he's being very reasonable for most of the movie, I would say, and whatever. And obviously, Maxine's very innocent and clearly been manipulated, and then is also put in danger repeatedly. So I think, and then obviously Vera gets like the lion's share of the development, and we're kind of with her, and we know that she's right, and we know what to root for, and all the rest of it. So by the end, like, I felt sad that Dad got killed. It was kind of it was a shame, and then I was kind of rooting for everyone else to survive, and I think that's more than I can say for most movies that try to do a premise like this, because most modern movies that try and do this, like, I don't care about the family that they introduce or the characters that are there for the father.
I'm like, I mean, I could be wrong. I'm not great with dates, but like, I don't look back at this as like a particularly great time for horror, especially like studio horror.
Oh, sure, yeah, 2000s, yeah, I would say so.
And I think you're saying it has that kind of like generic poster and stuff that when you look at it, you kind of feel like, I agree, it's another one of these movies. But yeah, I think it surprisingly kind of rises above that, and unfortunately it's still not like amazing, which I think there's some easy things you can kind of fix that would bump it up at least a little bit. But yeah, no, I was surprised at how effective some of the stuff is. And yeah, I am curious because I'm pretty sure I saw this when it first came out, so I don't remember if I knew the twist going in or not. Yes, it's a shame because it would have been interesting if I remember being surprised or if I kind of knew what was coming.
Yeah, it's weird because I think knowing there's all these little things that feel really obvious, but I don't know if I'd have gotten it like when I was actually. And I think the reason why you might not is because it's such an absurd twist. It's such an absurd like, oh, she's actually a fully grown woman the whole time. Like that would have been a weird thing to like. I don't know. Like if they somehow managed to get like an older woman playing the young child, it would have maybe been like this wild thing when it reveals her real face or something. But yeah.
So that's what I'm really curious about because I'm not sure how old the actress was when she filmed this, but I assume like she's probably a little older than she was playing, but still like
tell you, hon. Born in 1997, so she would have been 12 when this came out.
Okay, so she's 12, and I think did they say she was like 9 or?
She's probably 11 when they shot it thow. They probably shot it about a year earlier.
So that's about the same age because I could be wrong. I think they say she's 9, but. I don't remember fully, but
that was 9.
Okay, yeah, so she's she's just a few years older, but so then we have this new movie coming out, which I don't think it's a spoiler to say that it's a supposedly a prequel. I mean, it's called Orphan First Kill, so and obviously she dies in this, so I doubt that she's coming back. But
do you know who's directing this?
Oh, I know. I wasn't gonna say anything.
You son of a bitch! You've lured me into this. You absolute piece of trash! How dare you? Orphan First Kill is directed by none other than William Brent Bell,
WBB,
who you may know from The Boy and Brahms, The Boy 2. Also, the actress they've got in this, because the trailer's auto-played in IMDb as I clicked on it. This girl looks older than.
Yeah, so I mean, because I think they have the actress coming back, but my question is, like, I don't know, is she somehow going to be playing the character again, or like I don't know if are they going to use some CGI trickery to like transpose her face onto like a little kid's body, or
she looks way older. I don't know, like, is the idea that she gets smaller after an incident in her life and becomes the 9-year-old version? But
like a psychotic Benjamin Button, just
yeah. I mean, Julia Stiles is in it, if that's exciting.
Oh, okay. Cool.
News to anyone. I wouldn't say it is, but just in case you care, she's in it. Yeah. I mean, I didn't even realize it was the same actress because obviously it's been so long that she's a grown-ass woman now. But she's still not 33. Admittedly, she's not quite hit the age that she's supposed to be yet. But it looks like she's been adopted again. I've not got the sound on, so I'm not hearing it. But
I mean, I saw the trailer when it first came out, but I don't even really remember much from it. But my assumption is that this will probably be the story of that first, like when the doctor is talking about how, like, oh yeah, she seduced the father and then burnt the house down. I'm assuming it's that story.
But she's just clearly like 1.5 feet taller and
yeah,
like much older looking. All right.
Have you watched this season of What We Do in the Shadows?
Not yet. No, I've not watched season 4 yet.
Did you see last season or?
I am familiar that Colin Robinson's predicament has got into the start of the season. Yes.
Yeah, they basically just like CGI'd his head on like little kids' bodies. Just like, I wonder if they'll do that with this movie.
It doesn't look like it from the trailer. It just looks like she's wearing the outfit and I don't know. They're pretending. That's a shame because
I think that would be funny.
I mean, it's absurd because she has to be at most 8 then, given that she's 9 in the main movie. So.
Oh sure, yeah.
So they're just pretending that this 20-something-year-old woman's a 8-year-old.
Well, I guess maybe the idea is everyone will know the twist going in. So hey, why try to hide it?
Doesn't make any sense continuity-wise, though.
The man, it does make you think though that like. I don't know, like how it feels like there would have been a lot of stuff that would have been like pretty awkward filming this movie with using an actual like 11, 12-year-old kid.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, at least telling her to say the thing she was saying, I think is bizarrely, I do think there's a big difference between a 9 and 11-year-old that an 11-year-old can accept hearing a lot of the things that she had to say in this better than what a 9-year-old could handle. But I mean, yeah. I'm going on vague memory here. It's been a while since I was that age.
Yeah.
It's been even longer for you, so shut up.
No, I agree.
Old man.
Hey, I'm not complaining.
Yeah. Yeah, so how do you think you'll ever adopt someone after watching this movie? I mean, I wasn't really considering it beforehand either, but
so you're just against the idea altogether?
I'm not against adoption in general. I'm saying I didn't think I would be doing it. More people should probably adopt rather than have their own kids. You know, you're just adding more people to the planet. You may as well rescue one who's already in need of a home.
Okay.
Rather than create your own.
Yeah.
Selfish parents out there. Hear that, Tim? Selfish. Should have adopted. I mean, admittedly, you're spinning the roulette wheel. You know, maybe they're a serial killer already, but you never know.
I mean, between this and Problem Child, it's too risky. I can't.
Yeah, so movie's pretty decent. Okay, like I anytime Vera said F this and tried to fight her, like I was in hysterics. I was in hysterics the first time she dropped an F-bomb. I generally enjoyed the more violent scenes and her being up to no good. And I think the reason why Vera not being believed by her husband wasn't frustrating for me is because this wasn't just like the husband just happened not to see things that the ghost was doing, like it usually pisses me off in other movies. This was a character intentionally trying to make it look like Vera was losing it. So she was doing things specifically that would look suspicious given her history and given what she knows about her, and who would obviously try to not let the husband see her doing any of it, because the whole point of it is that she's trying to deceive him. So it made enough sense to me. There was enough logic here that I had a pretty reasonable time.
You know what it is I think it's interesting because you mentioned before how it has that kind of like generic studio movie look, but then what I think is nice about it is like, even though it has that look, it doesn't really fall into the tropes. Like I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like I didn't really feel like there's any like jump scares or anything like this. Like maybe there's like a few like fake outs or something where you might think like, oh, is she behind a door, but then it's like, you know, nothing. And like
there's a few teased jump scares that don't actually Like, or I think there's one moment where the husband kind of appears behind Vera, and there's a bit of a jump scare, but it's just him. I don't think there's not very many moments with her, with Esther that are a jump scare. I don't think.
Yeah, so it doesn't really feel like it's trying to get away with any kind of cheap scares like that. And then once they do actually show a lot of the horror or the violent stuff, it is actually surprisingly brutal and effective.
Oh, and another moment that I'm just thinking of now that, again, giving some heart to the kids is when the brother's in the hospital after falling out the treehouse and stuff. Esther asked the grandmother for some money for the vending machine, and after she's not back in 30 seconds, Maxine says, I'm going to go get Esther, because she's actually worried that she's going to go try something.
Yeah.
So it was another example of them looking out for each other, which kind of made both the kids kind of sweet, like the actual kids, not Esther.
Yeah. And the grandma is a minor character, but I thought they did a good job where, I feel like a lot of movies would just, kind of have her as an overly kind of judgy or, sorry for lack of a better term, but kind of a bitchy, character. But, she is pretty nice, but you can tell that there's kind of that, underlying level of judgment when she's kind of nudgingly bringing stuff up, she mentioned something from AA, even though Vera's oh yeah, I'm not, that's from AA, I'm not going there, but she's not just overly mean or anything. And then even you can tell it seems like she is a little hesitant to bond with Esther, but like you were saying, with that moment where she asked for the dollar and stuff, at first she's kind of no, your mother said stay here, and then she kind of looks at her all right, fine, here you go, just be quick. It's little touches like that actually makes these characters kind of feel a little more real than if it was just another generic Hollywood movie where they just kind of be oh yeah, here's the tropey annoying judgy mother-in-law character.
Yeah, she's a little judgy the first time you see her, when she's bringing up how Vera lost her job, and it felt oddly vindictive in a weird way, because she sort of makes her talk about it. And then Vera's well, I can't just go back there. They're not just going to accept me back now. It's and she's oh, that's a shame. It was a good job. And I'm well, you already know why she's not there. Why are you rubbing it in?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a fairly competent movie that makes you care enough about the various characters and has some fun moments. It's just a bit too long, and maybe could do with maybe a better visual design, I suppose, is for lack of a better term. So yeah, I guess it's time to rate it. Timmy, what you giving Orphan?
Yeah, no, it's I've actually seen this movie quite a couple of times. This is my maybe third or fourth watch, because it's one of those ones that I feel is streaming a lot, and then I saw it when it first came out, and then every now and again, obviously watching it again for the show, but I feel over the last couple of years, every now and again, especially maybe if I'm just in a horror mood, or maybe it's around October or something, and I'm just scrolling for stuff to watch, and every now and again I'll see it on stream and be oh, this is pretty, I remember liking this, I'll throw it on, and like you said, when you watch it, it's oh, this is a fairly competent movie, with some good kills and some I think really good performances all around. Honestly, even the little kid actors, I don't really think are bad or anything. So everyone's doing a pretty good job, especially I don't know if I'm complimenting her too much, but I don't know. Vera Farmiga is just an actress I just really like. I don't know, I think she just plays really great on screen, and again, she always I feel has this kind of, she plays she does a very good job of being kind of just exasperated and just totally done with this. Actually, a scene I kind of liked, or actually I liked a lot, was when she was talking to her therapist, and she just kind of starts getting mad at her, when the therapist is oh, actually I think Esther's kind of normal. I think maybe there might be something going on with you. And she just does this thing where she goes okay. You can just tell she's all right, screw you. I'm done. But yeah, no, she's great. I think she really anchors the movie. So I'm actually gonna go was trying to decide between like 6.5 or a 7, but I think I'll go the bump up and give it the 7. Because yeah, I don't know, I enjoy it. It's not without its flaws. Like you said, the biggest one is it's definitely too long. Like, you can probably easily chop it down to 15-20 minutes off it, and then I think that would definitely help a lot. And then, like you said, maybe if there's a little bit more style or something added to it. But I mean, other than that though, like there's still a lot to enjoy. I like the horror aspects, some good kills, some good violent scenes. I think Esther does a good job being like a menacing presence. And then the story does go into I think some type of kind of like cheesy, sleazy kind of places, but to me it's very fun and works in the movie. So yeah, I'll give it a 7.
I would describe this as being a little bit better than it really has any right to be. And everything that you hear about what this movie is, and the way the poster looks, like, it feels like it's going to be like really mediocre at best. That's the kind of the impression that it gave me before. It is surprising that it's as decent and as competent as it is, and it was making me laugh occasionally. I enjoyed some of the like Esther's kind of evil antics and performances. The characters well enough, to varying degrees, but like by the end, I found myself kind of rooting for them because they, them looking out for each other, the kids especially. I was like, you know what, I kind of like both these kids now because they're actually trying to protect each other. So. Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with the 7.
Well,
yeah, that's good. I won't go as far to say it's great, but it's surprisingly good. So, Orphan, before the director of the 2 boy movies comes in to ruin it all.
We'll see, just in a few weeks.
I bet he was mad he didn't direct this. I bet he was making the boys like, I wish I'd made The Orphan.
I mean, I'm assuming this is leading up to some type of versus movie. The boy versus the orphan.
Brahms versus Esther, yes. Very good.
Whoever wins, we lose.
Yeah, I will say the silent trailer that I saw a bit of a minute ago didn't look great, but because it looks like it's just her being adopted into a family, ignoring the stupidity of like how big she is compared to what she was in the original. It feels like she's just maybe they'll rate it in a reason. Maybe she has Benjamin Buttoning. I don't know. Like, and that's why she looks way older in this one compared to the second movie, or the first movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So.
I don't know. Maybe they'll try and explain it away, but it looks like it's rehashing just the same idea. Like I was kind of disappointed to see that it looks like it's just she's going to another family. It looks like Julia Estelle is going to start to notice things. It looks like it's going to be a bit of a rehash, but we'll find out. Yeah. And the not too distant future. So
it is very strange that they decided to do a sequel like all this time later, like. Because we're both positive on the movie, but I think like it seems like most people I know that seen it like seem to like it, but it's not like one that feels like it has like a cult following. Like it's not like something that like at most like people are like, oh yeah, no, I did see that movie, that's pretty good, but it doesn't seem like one that people are like, dude, I love that movie. When we getting another one? Like it seems like an odd choice. Like, or if you're gonna do a sequel, like you think it would have been like 2-3 years after it and like. Possibly straight to streaming or something like that, like not something that is what is it 12 or 13 years after the first one.
I mean, the actress who played Esther like could literally have like 2 or 3 kids of her own by now. Like that's how long they waited to do this, and the audacity to, I mean, I know she dies at the end, but the audacity to make it a prequel after all this time with the same actresses. It's nuts. It's actually nuts. So I'm not expecting a good movie from that, but we'll see. We'll see. This one surprised me a little bit, so maybe that'll surprise me even more so. But we got unfinished business next time. We have the currently Final Destination movie to talk about next episode. So look forward to that, and we are supposed to have a sixth one coming out this year, but then again, HBO Max is kind of going through a thing right now, so who knows?
Yep.
Who knows? Who knows if that and Evil Dead Rise will ever actually see the light of day? But here's hoping.
Yeah, I was really nervous about Evil Dead Rise. The thing that did give me some hope with that is I actually know someone that saw a test screening of it, which they said a lot of people had some pretty good buzz about it, and I think there were some rumors that they're maybe looking at a theatrical release for it as well, which I think if there's a possibility of a theatrical release to coincide with it, I think that'll definitely ensure that it's still coming out. But yeah, it is a weird time now where this company is just like acting like, because I have no idea like what stage of development the Final Destination movie is. I mean, it's supposed to come out this year, so you would think that it's fairly close to being done if it's not already done.
I assume it's at least finished its production by now.
Yeah, but I mean, if like, if Batgirl was essentially pretty close to being done and they're not going to release that, then yeah, I don't know what hope.
And Batgirl costs a lot more, I'm willing to bet,
for sure,
than both either Final Destination or Evil Dead. But we'll see. We'll see if they arise. But
very weird time.
Yeah, but that is the episode pretty much. So thank you for joining us. I will take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month. So thank you very much to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Sharp, Board Now, Christopher Moy, David Brown, Al Tradesman, and Alison M. Fordyce. Those are Patreon producers. You can, of course, support all of our content over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and get some bonuses for your trouble. We do 2 monthly bonus shows. One's at the $3 tier, which is the bonus episode, which patrons also get to vote on as well if you're at one of the higher tiers. So next week, the bonus episode on Patreon will be The Innocents, which came out just last year. Well, I think it was earlier this year for most places, really, but it's listed as a 2021 movie. That was the vote winner, so we'll be doing that in the bonus episode. And then the other monthly bonus is Even More Streams, which we just did last week, and that is where me and Tim just casually talk about the different horror movies that we've been watching throughout the month, and sort of find some weird picks and sort of tell each other about what we've been getting up to horror movie wise. And if there's any news, Tim usually hits me with a trivia game of some kind, and that's Even More Streams. So if you want access to those shows at the $3 and $5 tiers respectively, go over to Patreon. You can also use the super thanks button on YouTube if you want to support the content, and of course you'll go to Twitter at Screams Midnight, the Discord, the subreddit, whatever it may be. All these things are open and available to you. So yeah, there you go. That's my plugging. Anything you'd like to add, Tim?
Just it's a harsh world out there, so treat others with love and respect, I guess.
Well said. As it streams after midnight, thank you very much for joining us. We always appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies. We'll see you next time. We're out.